Well, hello. Looks like somebody made a very poor impulse purchase again. Yeah, we have another one to do. This is Brady Hound. It's from the same anime, I guess, as Neuron and Bunyip over here. Boomerang Bunyip. Bunyip Boomerang? Bunyip Boomerang, I think. This is apparently the American mech. The, as they say, North American Confederation, which just makes me think that it could potentially be the South. But, yeah, I don't know much about this one. And, oh, apparently the tape's already cut. So let's just get straight into it. It looks about as big as Bunyip over here. And this was, again, the same price as the other two, so... Yeah. There's a lot of plastic in this one. It looks like this one's going to be about the same size as Bunyip Boomerang. Yet it was the same price as Neuron, who is tiny, so interesting. This one does look pretty cool, in my opinion. I will just briefly readjust the camera. Give me a sec. There we go. That should be a bit better. Now you can see both the models and a bit more of the actual playing field here, as it were. I'm just basically going to get straight into it. I can't think of anything else to really say. Oh, look at that. It actually gives you a rundown of the pilots from the show as well. Interesting. Did not know that. I'm going to cut a lot of this out, because there's going to be a lot of plasticky noises, rather, which is worse. So... back in a sec. Interesting. This one's kind of got a bit of an iguanodon hand situation going on here. Or, what's the famous sci-fi race with the sort of two thumbs on either side of the hand thing? Like 3 fingers and 2 thumbs on... like this. Like, how do I frame this? Can you see under my hand there? There are some hands. It's got 2... God damn it. I'm trying some new lighting, because last time it didn't work. Yeah, there we go. 3 fingers and a thumb on either side of the hand. I'm sure I've seen an alien race in a sci-fi thing that does that. I can't remember what it is, but I'm almost certain that there is one that does that. It looks familiar. The only thing I can think of is like an iguanodon, because they have the thumb spike, and then they have like 3... quote-unquote normal hands, and then the weird sort of prehensile 5-jointed pinky, which is bloody weird. Oh, I didn't think about this. Now, the head, I think, is one of the coolest parts about this design, but looks like a lot of it is stickers, which means that it's going to be entirely based on my ability to actually put them on, so that'll be fun. I'm also incredibly cognizant of the fact that I only have about an hour and a half on this SD card before I have to transfer the stuff back over, so better do this quickly. I mean, I don't mind, but it's going to be a bit of a hassle if I have to do it the other way around, so... honestly, this looks like more plastic than Bunyip, so... Brady's going to be fun. Now that is a pile of plastic. That is a chunk. We'll put this in a pile over the side. Oh, the sound of that plastic rubbing together. Oh. That really just makes my teeth itch. Ugh. Right. Let's... oh, sweet Jesus. Okay. Yeah. I see. So this one is a bit more of an ordeal, but we can get it done. Just start with the legs and work up, like always. Okay. Just scooch that under there. And then we get our little Gundam kit with the sacred pinchers, which never want to come out. There we go. Again, apologies for the chair noises. Additionally, apologies about the camera. I mean, you know this by now. Not to mention the lighting. I'm trying something new. There's a light here, right next to my microphone. And I've also got the big up, like, roof light on and the windows closed. So purely artificial light this time. Hopefully that means that this thing's not constantly trying to go black and white on me for some reason. Right. Oh wait, I need the file out, don't I? And I'll get the part separator just in case. And the tweezers. Right. Now we can put all of this to the side and get to snipping. I'm honestly surprised at how well the last video turned out. Like, it is still kind of an experiment for my channel. Like, I'm still not sure if this is content that you guys really want to see, but it was fun to do. It gives me something to do with these models rather than just assemble them in silence. Oh, it's just as simple as cramming these two pieces together, huh? Yag. Okay. That was pretty simple, actually. Huh. Let me just file this down a bit. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure. Like, I'm almost certain that one of these days I will graduate to an actual Gundam, because this Kyokai Senki show does seem to have some pretty good robot designs, but there are some pretty generic ones as well. Once again, don't pince your own hands with your pincers. 9 and 33. 33, that's this little robo head looking piece that obviously isn't the actual robo head. There we go. I don't know if you can like see more of my head in frame or anything. The framing is slightly different. Once again, like, I don't know much about Gundam building faux pas or anything, so if I'm doing anything against the ethical code of Gundam, then I'm sorry, but these aren't Gundam. So, screw you. Once again, the best thing for audience engagement is to be confrontational. I'm almost certain of that. He said, sarcastically. Okay. This is a lot of hinges so far, I've noticed. Like, even though we're only like 4 pieces in, there's hinge there, and obviously there's going to plug a hinge in there, maybe another one there. This is, I mean, I know it's legs, but wow, this guy is mobile. Ooh, I'm starting to notice a really awkward flex on some of these pieces. I don't like that. Like, the connection, I don't know if you can see that, the connection between these two pieces. It's one piece, but you can kind of see, if I put it in front of the white there, you can kind of see that really thin joint there. When I snipped this end, it flexed quite worryingly, so I hope this isn't a very load-bearing part. I was thinking to myself with this thing is mostly like a sort of beigey brownie colour, and I'm a little bit worried because, like, very bright plastic, or at least light-coloured plastic, tends to be a lot weaker, and I hope that's not the case with this guy. Like, I know a lot of Transformers fans out there will have heard of gold plastic syndrome. I actually learned about it when I was doing DT, design technology, back in like high school, I think you'd call it. It was the product design course. We were learning how to vacuum form things, and we learned very quickly that yellow plastic is really weak in comparison to things like blue and red. Okay, so we've got a bit of a hinge there. Where did that other hinge go? Oh, it's this piece. There's a tiny little... You can barely see that. Ooh, okay, so we've got... What is that? Oh, that's this piece. Brain work. That's a D. Is that? No, that's B. Jesus. Gotta really dig for the D pieces. D1? D1, A1, D1. Okay, so... hang on, D is gold. Or, like, bright, sort of mustardy yellow. Yeah, D1. Okay, so we got some yellow on the go already. And then A1 as well. That's this little ball joint here. Ball joint, ball joint, ball joint. I'm sure there are some Joey the Hong fans out there. I can barely speak, apparently. Again, you should be... Well, I say you should be used to that, but you're probably on this channel because you're following me for my voice acting. You'd think I'd be able to speak, but then again, I can hardly find words, and I'm also a writer, so I'm just a living contradiction, apparently. D1, 2 and 3. Where's 3? Oh. So there's 2 of each of these pieces. Oh, well, yeah, it's part of the legs. It's going to mirror itself in it. In it, bruv. Tuesday. Bottle of water. I watch a lot of VTubers, and for some reason they always take the mick out of the Brits for their accent, as if we all talk the same way. I'd say my accent is fairly stereotypical, considering that I grew up in the black heart of Yorkshire, and yet I sound like I'm from, like, nowhere specific because of my accentlessness. There we go. Speaking of my voice acting, I did just upload The Nameless City, an audiobook, on my channel. I actually think the actual voice acting part of that went really well, but I was okay. This is a bit of a contentious topic online right now, but because I couldn't find a really good picture, like a sort of Lovecraftian like city under the desert, without it being like some kind of massively terrifying, well, it needs to be terrifying, but like massively sized, barely buried thing, even though in the book or story, I guess, it's described as being like, you know, mostly under sand. Like, I couldn't find a good picture of it, is what I'm trying to say. So I kind of generated one with AI, and I'm not like massively a proponent of the whole AI thing, especially since I'm a writer and they're trying to take over my job too. But like, it was the only way I could kind of find a particular... hang on, there's a specific way around. It was the only way I could actually like think, with my current lack of funds, to get something, you know, fitting for the audiobook. And as a result, I can't post it on the Lovecraft Reddit like I thought I would, because as it turns out, the Lovecraft Reddit really doesn't like AI imagery, which I totally understand, because, like I've said before, the only real good thing about AI is that it can produce Lovecraftian horrors whilst trying to produce something normal. Fit? What does that mean, fit? Like, is it just saying, like, be sure that it's flush? Is that what it's saying? Interesting. So this plugs into here. Okay, I see. So there's like a little bar that you can clip this onto, and oh, I see, right, because there's these little lines on the side of this, and there's lines in here that you have to line it up with, so that's what it means by fit. You have to line it up, and is this the right way around? The question always on my lips when I make one of these, is this the right way around? And frequently the answer is no. So that's how that goes. Let's go back to the A's. Oh, Jesus, I hit my lamp there. The mic, oh yeah, looking at the waveform, the mic really picked that up. Sorry about that. I might cut that out or fiddle with it in editing so it's not quite so painful to you. I do hope you guys like this, whoever is actually on my channel, if there are anybody. Somebody did comment on the last video, actually. I don't remember what it was, but I was surprised that somebody even commented, honestly. I'm surprised anyone's on my channel, if I'm honest. But yeah, I'm glad that at least somebody watches this, you know? Even if it's just out of curiosity, like, you follow me for... I find people follow me just because of, like, my voice. Well, I mean, voice acting channel. I get it. But, like, I don't think my voice is that nice sounding, personally. I do wonder about other models I could do on this besides just Kyokai Senki. Like I said, I'm one day going to find a Gundam design that I actually like. It's a bit over the top. I'm not a huge fan of the whole Power Rangers aesthetic that Japan has for its robots. That weird sort of overblown, everything is bright colours and spiky. Like, I prefer that to the whole grim, dark, depressing aesthetic of something like 40k or something. Which way round? Is it that way round? So this goes on this side. And there we go. Nice satisfying click. There we go. And because I did that, I've completely forgotten what I was talking about. It happens. Right, and now I've completely screwed up my indexing system for all these sprues. 30 for this bit. But yeah, content on my channel is a bit of a potluck right now. It's model kits and audiobooks. I mean, audiobooks is the main thing. But if you scroll a bit further back, there's always those getting my friends to guess JoJo stand videos. Those were fun. I had a lot of audio problems with them, but they were fun to record. Tightly fit. Okay, so the back says tightly fit the parts as far as they will go. That's on the back. But on the front it specifically says that there's a bit of a gap. Like, that's just part of the design. Interesting. Can you see that? Like, on the front piece there's a bit of a gap. There's meant to be a bit of a gap. Whereas the piece on the back, D4, which is on sheet D1, which I've already got out once already, and I've apparently already lost it. Oh, it's this, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Nearly dropped that. D4. Right, this piece. It says that this has to go on as tight as it will go, and be sure that it goes on like that. Honestly, that's just my rule for all of these pieces, unless it tells me otherwise, so I don't know why it's telling me that. But it do. And then this piece goes on like this, I think. Ah, I see, there's a groove. Much like the other yellow piece that I put in, there's like a groove. Oh, okay, I see why it's telling me to go in as tight as possible, because it really, really wants to be on there as tight as possible. There we go. It's quite a satisfying chunk. Okay, this thing did have... Oh, there we go. Oh, so that piece with the gap of it, that's the knee guard. I see. And it, like, flexes. Oh, that's what the other joint was. It was for the knee guard to move. I see. That's some tight robo design right there. One of the other model, like, things that I've been looking at recently is I was wondering if there are any Metal Gear models. Like... I was thinking about like Metal Gear Rex or Metal Gear Ray. Right, so it's the grooves that go upward. Okay. And then that clicks in there. Okay. So that's a sort of rear ankle guard type deal. Okay. It specifically says don't cut all the way on those bits of sprues. I always worry about that, so it's good that it's telling me. That's on A15. I think another thing about these videos that is a bit different from my usual stuff is that I'm making it up on the spot. And, oh, I need 7 as well. It really does sort of test my, not really improvisation, but just like conversation, I guess? Because it's a fairly conversational kind of content. And, I ain't used to it, am I? And not only is it not my usual style, autism, you know, speed run to mentioning I'm autistic, but there we go. I tend to, like, judging from my last video, it really picked up towards the end, I think, and I think also it helped when I had a topic to keep coming back to. Oh, this is a foot. Okay. Right. But yeah, is this telling me not to cut? No, this is telling me to cut all the way. Okay. But yeah, the having like the topic of like specifically music and stuff, that got me talking. So I guess hyperfixations are the way to go when it comes with me. I've already mentioned one of them when I mentioned Iguanodon. I'm a big dino fanatic. 30. Ow. That looks like a really chunky piece. Ah, it is. Yeah, any other dino fans out there? And by dino fans, I mean like the weird dino fans. I don't just mean like, oh, I'm into Jurassic Park. I mean like, no, I can name you a lot of weird specific bones that come with dinosaurs. You know, like, it's one of my autistic hyperfixations. It's something that I am very much interested in. So that goes that. Oh, that was a almost worrying click is the best way to describe that. Connects to the ball joint. Oh, Jesus. There we go. Nice ball joint there. Toe bend. And a heel bend. Interesting. No sort of pincer action like a reptilian bird. A raptorial bird. There we go. A reptilian bird is a dinosaur. Because a lot of people don't realise that birds are just dinosaurs. Like people say, oh, the dinosaurs went extinct. No, they didn't. We have birds. Birds are dinosaurs. 31 and 54. Come on, dyscalcular. I've never been diagnosed with dyscalculia, but I always get numbers backwards for some reason. And dyslexia runs in my family, so it's gotta be something screwy in my head. Another thing to add to the pile. Why am I not finding this? Again, like, why is my brain just failing to fire? Oh, because it's A2. God, I'm an idiot. Okay, A2. There we go. That's still A1. There we go. A2. Or if you look at it wrongly, 5A, because backwards. 54... somewhere. There it is. 34. It looks like a drum mag. Clippity, cloppity, and oh, and that just fell off. Interesting. I see why it said fragile on the box now. Right. Which way around does this... so it just clips in like this. Okay. And we got ourselves a hip joint. And then it says, to make the exact same thing again... Okay, now this guy looks a lot smaller than I thought he was, so he might be more of a neuron size. Because this is the full leg. And, like, get neuron alongside him, that's a bit more of the scale we're talking about. Again, like, with Bunyip, I thought the reason why he had such a big box was because he was so wide, but it turned out he was also tall as well as wide. This guy looks like he's pure wide. He is, like... he's like sort of an aerial looking character. I'm probably going to have to use a flight stand for him, but he has like jet engines on his shoulders. He's very wide. And I guess like he's got wings on those shoulders as well. So in short, he's pretty fly for a wide guy. But he's not as tall as I thought he was. Interesting. Good to know. Now we just repeat the process again. Unless I have anything interesting to say. It'll probably be a fairly fast forward type deal through the whole thing. Oh, speaking of A1, I don't know if y'all are all interested in weird bouts of existentialism, but for some reason recently that's been my YouTube sort of shtick. I watch a wonderful YouTuber called Ambiguous Amphibian, who he literally describes himself as playing like existential let's plays, where it's like a video game that's not really that existential, but he makes it existential. Like he'll play The Sims and he'll talk about how it's like an allegory for the horrible soul crushingness of like mind numbing consumerist capitalist America or something like that. But I recently watched a video by CPG Grey, I want to say is the name. I'm blanking on if that's the actual name. But he did a video about sort of the fractal nature of how paper is sized. So that's why I said A1. And like, he went on a massive tangent about like if you fold paper like this far down, like if you did like, not if it folds, halves, if you half paper this much, you eventually get down to like, you know, subatomic level about how everything is basically nothing. If you look between the electron clouds of an atom, it's mostly nothing. And then he zoomed out all the way to the universal level and how everything was basically nothing up that way as well. And I don't know. These sorts of videos are very interesting for really silly reasons. My YouTube recommendeds are very bizarre. I blame VTubers. I don't know why, I just do. They have a lot of... There's a lot of... let's say variety. That's going to be the polite way to say it. There's a lot of variety when it comes to VTubers. I'm trying to think, like, how... I talked a lot about music on the last episode, shall we call it, and I don't know if I talked about every sort of live show I've been to. It's a surprising amount, really, given how sheltered I can be at times. But I actually went out and did some stuff occasionally in my life. Wow. Alright, so we need that D sheet again. Feels like most of this is going to be gone by the end of, like, the legs. Well, I mean, these pieces are going to still be there, but... And this, whatever number 1 is. That looks like a VR helmet, almost. Snake, the cockpit basically works like a VR training headset. I've been watching a lot of Metal Gear recently. I'd never actually... Like, I'd played Metal Gear Solid 1, and I'd watched through some of Metal Gear Solid 1, but I'd never watched all the way through until recently. And good God, is that game, like, controversial opinion. I've had this opinion for a while about Metal Gear, but the story of Metal Gear is good, but, well, I say good, arguable. It's crazy. It's interesting. Because it's so crazy. It's very similar to JoJo, where you just stood there thinking, what the hell can they come up with next? But instead of weird BS magic out of nowhere, it's weird BS technology out of nowhere, you know? Like, somebody will inevitably bring up like, some kind of nanomachine, or there's some new robot or cyborg or something, and there's just inexplicable vampires out of nowhere, and there's actually a lot of similarities between JoJo and Metal Gear. But the games, like the gameplay, especially Metal Gear 1, it's... Metal Gear Solid 1, I should say. It's really not that great, actually. For example, the Liquid helicopter fight. He's way too tanky, and... Oh, jeez. I don't know, like, there's a lot of issues with it. That's probably why they remade it. And then you have things like the, God, what was that other... There's a lot of situations where you just get stun-locked by basic enemies. Oh, yeah, the escape sequence on the Jeep, where, like, you're trying to fire this machine gun behind you, and it's just really awkward and... just not particularly very fun looking, because you're constantly getting stun locked while you're trying to turn the turret, and every time you get shot you move, so you're trying to aim the turret, you get shot and you move away again. It's stupid, but like the story is great, the cutscenes are great, the voice acting is a coin flip sometimes, but that's my favourite kind. I mean, I love Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and we know that what the voice acting in that can be like. Die, monster! You don't belong in this world! Honestly, I think Richter's voice actor, like, he's not the best, but he's very memorable. But Dracula, as cheesy and as hammy as he is, it's Dracula. you gotta put some spice in there. You gotta keep it as hammy as a deli, you know? It was not by my hand that I'm once again given flesh. Like, it's so dramatic. It's over dramatic, and that's what I love about it. Right, now I've got to use B2. I actually was in a fan dub of Castlevania Symphony of the Night for a while before the project leader cancelled the project. I was very tempted to release some of that content onto my channel because I was very proud of the job I did as Dracula. I wasn't doing the voice that I just did there, by the way. That was a joke voice I was doing. The actual voice, when I was trying to actually do a good voice, it came out quite well, and I'm very proud of it. But you know, the project just fizzled out, I guess. It happens a lot with casting call club projects. I was also part of a Has Been Hotel sequel, which was fun. I think it was Alistair. I think the reason they chose me as Alistair was because I could actually do the radio kind of sound, if that makes sense. The radio voice filter, and nobody else knew how to do it, which kind of gives you an idea about how casting call club projects tend to go. And as a result of the guy not really knowing much about writing, I also got roped into rewriting it sometimes. I was essentially like a sort of script doctor, or whatever you call it, like somebody who comes in later and fixes up the initial draft, if that makes sense. I was also in, okay, this is really silly, because I've heard people complain about this, because I genuinely don't know if it was the exact same thing that I was part of, or if it was, like, somebody took the exact same idea, but it was essentially something called Gotham High, which is just, it's the Batman villains as, like, high school students, and, like, I don't really know why I was a part of it. I really don't like high school as a concept and things. Like, the one reason why I stopped watching anime is because somehow they always bring it back around to high school, and I don't know why. Like, how many of these mechs do you think have teenage pilots? You know? It's such a weird thing. Like, it's an absolutely eternal thing when it comes to anime. Like, for example, I recently got into High Rise Invasion, and the reason I get into a lot of stuff like that is because a voice actor is in it that I quite like, and with this case it was Jonah Scott, who was in Beastars, who is a very good voice actor. He was also in JoJo. Why is this not going on right? Hang on a second. Ah, I see, I didn't properly squish it down. But yeah, I was very interested in that show because Jonah Scott is in it, and the English dub, of course, and the concept is really interesting. Like, the main character falls asleep, so I can't remember if they fall asleep naturally, if like they get drugged or something, I can't remember, and they wake up in some horrible death game where they have to run away on like the rooftops of some unknown city, away from masked killers wearing these smiley face masks that control their minds, which is interesting. And then, like, the main sort of, I don't know, like, the main thing is it's just like a death game on these rooftops of an unknown city that are interconnected, and that's a really cool idea. But then it's like, oh, the main character is a Japanese schoolgirl. I'm like, why? Why is it always Japanese schoolgirls? Like, that concept would work perfectly without the mention of high school. You know, the main character is inevitably a bloody Japanese schoolgirl in a miniskirt for some reason. Like, if she fell asleep of her own accord, why is she still in her uniform? I have retained so little of that show, even though the character that Jonah Scott played and the actual story itself was pretty good, but the aesthetic of the main characters, outside of, like, the killers, was so boring because they were all high school students. You know, I could kind of deal with Evangelion. I watched all of Evangelion, and well, not all of it, all of the original run of Evangelion. Saying all of Evangelion means like all the spin-offs and whatever. I didn't watch any of that. I didn't really understand that one either. I mean, I think that's the point. I think like Kojima, like what's the name of the JoJo guy? Araki. Like, the point is that you're not meant to get it. It's, like, meant to be a bit silly and absurd. Because it's more fun that way. I mean, surprisingly, Metal Gear Solid 1 is one of the more tame, I'd say, of the series. Metal Gear Solid 2, the main antagonist is the President of the United States, who is also another clone of the big boss. And, like, in Metal Gear Solid 1, you had one guy who kind of used magic in the form of crows. Ravens, rather. You had a very good sniper, although the ridiculous part of it was that for some reason she was almost always half naked. That's very Hideo Kojima. Then, of course, there was a clone of the big boss, who is the little brother of Snake, and then the cowboy, of course, the gay cowboy, the gay Russian cowboy, excuse me. I don't know. One of the I saw something recently. It was a VTuber I watch who has recently got massively into Metal Gear. They were who I was watching playing Metal Gear, the first one, and the way that they described it, I think, encapsulates it perfectly. One of their friends asked them to try and sum up the Metal Gear plot, and they said, I could maybe sum up the plot of Metal Gear 1 in 10 minutes. And then they said, who's Ocelot? And they said, I can't sum up Ocelot in less than 10 minutes. That is the best way to describe Metal Gear, I think. There are specific characters that you can't even sum up in 10 minutes. It's that crazy. And JoJo's very similar, if you ask me. Like, it's like that meme, like me explaining about a carriage that crashed in the 1800s, the school nurse wondering why I stabbed myself with an arrow, that sort of thing. I don't know. Japan makes some very interesting things, he says, building a Japanese mech. But again, it always comes back to teenagers or high schoolers. I don't get it. I just don't get it. One show that I've been wanting to get really into is Cyberpunk Edge Runners. And besides, like, I don't really know what to think about Cyberpunk, you know, considering the whole weird launch thing that happened with the Cyberpunk game. But the series looked interesting, especially since, like, I follow a lot of I follow a lot of voice actors on Twitter, and one of them mentioned that he was in Edge Runners, and one of the coolest things about voice actors is occasionally you'll get this weird sort of situation where a voice actor will do something as a joke and they'll leave it in. I love that. It's like something was stuck on my arm there, weird. It's like when you watch a movie scene and then you learn that it was improvised by the actor. Heath Ledger did a lot of that in Dark Knight. And the thing that happened in the Edge Runners thing was he did a JoJo reference and a Fist of the North Star reference. It was a cyborg guy beating up another guy. And whilst he was doing that, he did a couple of auras, he did a couple of, Kenshiro, is that his name? Kenshiro's thing from Fist of the North Star. And it was really cool. But he was beating him up because he was a school bully. Again, with the bloody high school. Do you see what I mean? Okay, that's an interesting joint. I don't know if you can see that very well, but this is the back of the leg. It's got a sort of wiggle, like the ankle joint, I guess you'd call it, has a bit of a side to side, and like it's just on the back. There's nothing like sort of stopping it. Weird. Not the worst design I've seen. There we go. Need these A's again. But yeah, it's kind of harder for me to get into anime. Castlevania was a very good anime, but then again, like I've mentioned, I was already into the games. And again, they didn't make it about high school. It's very hard to make it about high school when you're in a fantasy... Well, I say that. Isekais exist. The entire point of that is to make something into high school that's a fantasy, you know? Like, oh, this high school kid got hit by a truck and all of a sudden he's in a magical world. Why couldn't it just be some random schlub? Why does it have to be a high school kid? Why does the high school kid know how to use a sword? Like, I know he's a nerd, but like... I'm a nerd. I don't know how to use a sword. It's like that, like... what was that, The only example I can think of is Doctor Who. The recent run of Doctor Who. Before David Tennant came back and when Jodie Whittaker was first coming in as the Doctor. A part of Doctor Who that I try not to think exists. Not because I hate Jodie Whittaker or anything. She's actually a very good actress. It's just that she wasn't particularly well done as the Doctor. And the entire series itself was written by a bunch of... Come on. Okay, that's just not going in. Let me try that again. There we go. As I was saying, the entire series was written by a bunch of gibbons. There we go. Got ourselves some legs. But yeah, there was this moment where one of the characters was like, oh, I've played Call of Duty, I can use a gun. And then he proceeds to expertly headshot 5 robots. Whilst having dyspraxia, and that being the only personality trait he has, is that he has a coordination disorder. And he expertly headshots 5 robots. And it's like, what? How does that compute? The only consistent thing about this guy's personality is that he doesn't have very good coordination, but he's played Call of Duty, so he can headshot robots without ever using that kind of gun. Of course. Okay, so A2 again. Now we're onto the waist, by the way. Just waste until you see it. Goddamn. That was a terrible joke. Puns are a particularly good form of humour. I'm just not particularly good at puns. Yeah, there we go. But yeah, the whole recent Doctor Who thing, it's put it like this. I was a massive fan of Doctor Who since its inception, re-inception, I should say, back in 2005. And this recent run of the show has been so bad that I do not trust them to come back. Like, even if they bring back an old writer, even if they bring back an old doctor, it wasn't the doctor that was the problem. And like, I should say it wasn't the actress that was the problem. Like, I'm not one of these pigs who thinks like just because she's a woman she can't like play the doctor or something. Like, I was excited for a female doctor, and then they just wrote her like anything but the doctor. Like, how does that compute? Like, they didn't even write the character right, you know? Oh, interesting. Okay, so this is how that fits in. Weird. All right. But it do be like that, and it do work. There we go. But yeah, like, I just don't trust Doctor Who to come back from that. Especially since the first thing I heard about whoever it was, I can't remember his name, who came back, the first thing I heard was that he's not retconning the whole timeless child thing. And that was one of the things that I had the biggest problem with. I could go on for hours only about the timeless child. That was such a strange move. And like, it was an old, like a classic Doctor Who idea, I guess, that was being bandied about for a while. There was this Cartmel master plan where Cartmel, one of the writers, was thinking about initiating this big, sweeping story arc where we find out that the Doctor is secretly like one of these Gallifreyan demigods. And then we get something similar with the Timeless Child, where it turns out she's not even Gallifreyan, she's a multi-dimensional creature that is the origin of regeneration? And they stole it from her? Like, I'm not against the Timeless Child thing. I'm against the Doctor being the Timeless Child. Like, I think the Timeless Child thing really actually... It connects a lot of the... what we know about the Time Lords. Like, of course, if they find something that's going to help them get ahead, they're going to torture somebody to get it. That's just in the Time Lords' forte. But why does it have to be the Doctor? Like, you could have the Doctor seek out the Timeless Child and, like, try to make up for her, like, species' wrongs against the Timeless Child. It could even be the Master, of all people. Like, why did it have to be the Doctor? You know? It's just silly. But like I said, I can... Oh, hang on. Interesting. Why, though? So, okay. There's this sort of skirt butt flap type deal, and it's on this sort of arm. If you fold it down, there's a bit of a protuberance, and you can, like, squish it back into there. But, like, why? Is that for something? Is it to give you more articulation on the legs? Is it for a flight mode? Is it so I can drop it? I don't know, but it's very interesting. I'm sure we'll find out. Build 2 skirt flaps. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I think media is in a bit of an odd spot right now. I have a film degree, so I've looked into this excessively, and not to mention I'm autistic. So I looked into this exceptionally because another one of my hyperfixations is film and media, and I'm confused about the state of some shows and films and such. Star Wars, for example. I'm a big Star Wars fan, or at least I was. I don't get a lot of what modern Star Wars is doing. I was a big fan of The Mandalorian, but I just, for some reason, stopped watching it, and then we stopped paying for Disney Plus, so there was no real reason, like no real way that I could keep watching it if I wanted to, but I did get a little bit bored with it for some reason, and now all of a sudden I hear that it's now become the Book of Boba Fett and The Mandalorian as, like, one show, and then there's also things like Andor, and I'm going to be entirely honest with you. I love Rogue One. I completely forgot who Cassian Andor was. Like, he was such a non-character in my mind. Like, I like Rogue One. Well, I just dropped the Gundam kit on the floor. That's fine. Like, I really like Rogue One. For a lot of reasons. It's not just like I don't think it's just like sort of nostalgia bait in a lot of ways. It's actually like a really good film. Like, not necessarily on its own. Like, you kind of need the knowledge of the other films, I admit. But I don't mind that. That's not an evil to me. It's not a bad thing that a film ties into other films, especially in the era of the expanded universe, you know? I'm a little bit confused about, like, the whole, like, I don't remember him very much. Like, looking at rewatching the film, I admit that the actor's great in a lot of ways, and I think he deserved more from that character than he got. But, like, I still didn't really know him all that much. I guess that's the point of the series. Like, you want to see more of him, so here's some more of him, I guess. I don't know, like, there's a lot of weird decisions being made in me. Like, Netflix and Wizards of the Coast as well. Like, they've just been making decisions recently that just seem to be, hey, how about we just screw over our customer base? And then when that goes poorly for us, we'll either backpedal or die. And Netflix has chosen to backpedal, and Wizards of the Coast has chosen to just... Well, they can keep going, but they did definitely alienate their user base for no reason. Right. We've got ourselves a waist piece. This has some very interesting choices. First of all, no, that is the right way around. So this front panel has a bit of a wiggle. I don't know if that's intentional. You've got ball joints on these side skirts, and you've got that aforementioned pull out and flip up kind of action on the back skirt. Interesting. And then that slots in. Come on. Oh, Jesus. Side skirt just fell off. Okay, has that gone in? Nope, that's not fully in yet. Or is it? I think that's as in as it'll go. Come on, there we go. That's one click. Okay, so it is meant to go in more. I just need to really pressure this thing. Everyone's counting on you. There we go. Really had to pressure it, that's all. That's what I said. Where the hell did that side skirt go? Oh, sweet Jesus. Give me a sec. I must find this thing. It popped off to be with the fairies, apparently. Where'd you go, you beige little git? Ah, there you are. Yeah. Right, we got ourselves some pants. Some robo pants. A little bit of monsoon action. That includes the pants attack. Right, there we go. Let's get all these little bits of sprue that I cut off and throw them to the void. Next, body. Yeah, speaking of, I say speaking of, this was a while ago we mentioned it now, but the whole Nameless City, but yeah, speaking of the whole Nameless City thing, I always feel a bit weird doing a Lovecraft thing, because I don't know if you could tell by the jump cut, but there's been a bit of a gap since the last sentence, so I don't remember what I was talking about, essentially. So I meant to go all the way through. I'm gonna be honest with you, I genuinely don't know, even looking at the instructions. We'll figure it out. Right. Does it need to... Oh, okay, I see. It stops after a while. I thought it would just go straight through. Basically, I had to push one piece through another piece, and luckily it had a place to stop, so that's fine. I genuinely don't know anything about this series that these are from. Is this also one? Here it is. Like, I've heard it's not that great. I've heard even that it's a little bit racist, in a way. Not like... Well, not racist, necessarily. Just like... coming over here, stealing our gerbs kind of thing, you know what I mean? Apparently, it was quite nationalistic, from what I hear. Like, talking about, like... other countries coming into Japan and diluting its culture and stuff like that. That fell on the floor. Oh, jeez, this looks complicated. Right, so this does that. And then this does this. Okay, that's an interesting design. Not like in a bad way, I just haven't seen anything like that before. Interesting. And then this clips onto the piece that I pushed through. This is quite... I'm going to have to force this quite hard, I think. This is gonna hurt. Oh, no, that just worked perfectly. Nice. And now I have to build the opposite number of this. Cool. And then it's presumably just... hopefully with less of a gross sound, of course. If anybody who's watching this, by the way, like... has any ideas for like audiobooks or anything, or any like content that I should make, because I at least one person is watching these, then definitely put it in the comments, because I'm always open to trying new things when it comes to content, as you can tell by the strangeness of this content in comparison to the rest of my channel. There are parts of this that really do remind me of Metal Gear. I did actually look if I could find any Metal Gear, like, model kits, but None that were below $100, or like 100,000 yen or something. They were all pretty expensive. Ow! Okay. That wasn't a good feeling, and I hope I didn't break anything there. This thing really isn't going in how it should. Ow! No, that's painful. Am I doing this wrong? Or is it just, like... See, the other one went perfectly flush. This one isn't. Which makes me feel like maybe it should be different. Hang on, let me move that a touch and then try it again. No, that's just not going in. Is there something blocking it? Like a piece of sprue or something? Ah! I did it. It was probably the wrong way around, knowing me. Okay. Ah, of course, I needed another one of those pieces to push through. 10, right? Yeah. I don't actually, now that I think about it, I don't think I've actually watched any mech animes besides Neon Genesis Evangelion. Oh, no, I have. Wait, Code Geass. I did watch Code Geass as a child. That was a weird show. I liked a few elements of it. The idea of Geass itself is pretty cool. Like, I wish they'd have done more with it, really. Honestly, I wish they'd done more with mechs as well. I think there may be another series that came out recently that I haven't watched. This is not A2. Where's A2? There it is. 58. That's this semi-large piece. Surprisingly, there aren't that many large pieces, as opposed to Bunyip here, who had that one massive shoulder slab in the shape of a boomerang. So I guess all of the massive wings and jets on his shoulders are actually made of separate pieces, which is interesting. But yeah, like, mecha anime is something I haven't really got into. Probably because of the reason I've mentioned before, where it's just every single time, for some odd reason, it's like children piloting the mechs for some reason. I blame Evangelion for that, honestly. Like, that does seem to be the thing, because Evangelion was popular, you know? But like I said, I'm not a big anime guy, but I like the idea of mechs. I like the idea of mecha. I'm just not really big on the idea of children fighting people in mechs. Like, I watched Beastars a while back because I knew Jonah Scott was in it, and I watch a lot of stuff that he's in. Like I said, he was also in that other thing I've mentioned that I've already forgotten what it was. God, what the hell was it? I don't remember. But I tried watching Beastars, and like, I accepted that was like a high school story. Like, I went into it knowing that was the case, and I was fine with it because I wanted to know about the story and the characters and stuff like that. And then it's like, yes, this lanky, uncoordinated teenager is gonna go up against the mafia? And it's like, what? That's silly. Like, you know, a couple episodes ago we were arguing about, like, you know, relationship issues and, like, the Halloween, like, I don't know, dance? Was that? I don't know, something. There was some event going on where they had to paint a big building that they were making, like a float of some variety. And, like, all of a sudden now, like, yeah, I get that a character gets kidnapped and is about to be eaten by, like, you know, the mafia, the meat mafia, but like that honestly, it would have made sense if, like, she'd have escaped it on her own, or like she'd have like honestly, I would have preferred it if she died there. That would have been a much more intense plot point than the silly, uncoordinated, lanky teenager. Like, I know he's a wolf, but, like, come on. This is not a wolf we're talking about. This is Legoshi we're talking about. He's not going to go up against the bloody mob, is he? That just... I don't get it. Oh, Jesus. Like, I know that there is an actual murderer in the school. That's never brought up until, like, that point. I'm sure it probably has something to do with the same plot point as the whole mafia thing. But, like... I don't know. I think the entire point of the show is, like, the animalistic side of these people trying to be normal people. And, like, that's why a high schooler can go up against the mafia, because, you know, a wolf could go up against a lion. But, like, I don't know. I just didn't exactly want to see that, if that makes sense. It just seemed a bit bizarre to me. That connects where? Oh, on the very... Is that the front or the back? I don't know, but it's on there now. Don't know if you can see that very well. Now I need to make this sort of radome looking thing. This is the piece that I was saying reminded me of Metal Gear. Snake, you have to shoot the radome. So it's not actually a radome. This looks like it's some sort of joint. It's got a hinge on it. There we go. Whoa. It's so circular that it's slipping out of my hands with how slick it is. Let me just clear up some of that spruage. There we go. And then this connects onto the very bottom, apparently. Ah, I see. Oh, that's a satisfying little click. So, you see that sort of radome orb kind of deal? So it's got a bit of a back and a bit of a forward. Not much of either, because of the way that it's built, and that's fine. It's a very nice looking sort of mechanism so far. You can probably see a bit more of the detail than you used to. It's pretty cool. Right, now we have more C's. That's a B. Where the hell is C1? There it is. This is all the armor plating from the look of it. 17, that's this bit. Wow, Jesus. There we go. We also need C. This is, yeah, C1 11. That's this little ODST chest plate looking thing. There we go. And then D1. Ah, that's that VR helmet looking thing on the yellow piece. And this is all on the front here. Let's start from the bottom and work our way up, I suppose. So that goes there. There we go. And then the VR headset goes... Oh, Jesus. VR headset goes over the top. Like so. And then this piece lays itself on the top on these 4 little Lego studs. Nice. I think we're getting towards the head. I think that is the neck, these are the arms, and that's the waist. Yes, actually, looking at it, the head is right here. It gives us multiple heads, interestingly. Let me just find that for you. Here we go. It gives us 2 heads. Yeah, it gives us 2 heads. And like, right, I see. So one of them is the activated state, which has like eyes open on it, and the other one doesn't have eyes open on it, which is the deactivated state, I guess. I don't know why, but I guess. And this, let's actually get the other piece out. C, that's not C. Where's C? This is C. C1? Yeah. That's C2. This is C1. Oh, no. There goes the gold bit. Get that in a sec. This colour, I guess, has some really chunky bits of plastic that you really have to cut through. There we go. And then I get the feeling I'm going to have to do this really in detail. Let me just go get that sprue that I dropped. While I'm over here, I might as well get the Gundam kit that I dropped as well. I drop a lot of stuff. I'm very uncoordinated, as you have probably seen. I'll put this over here now. I'll put this over here for now. There we go. Forgive the horrible noises. Oh, right, you guys are going to have to see me fiddle with these bloody stickers. Okay. Let's get this right. Oof. I get the feeling that this is going to be the worst of all of the Gundam type stickers that I've put on so far. Okay, that didn't go on straight at all. There we go. There we go. That's very nearly done. That's one of them. Nearly on there. Just a bit of persuasion to the left. A bit more into its little trench. See, this is the problem with stickers. If you get them right, they look wonderful. If you get them wrong, it completely ruins the look of the Gundam. Or whatever you're building in this case. I can't remember what they actually call their mechs. There's a word for them. It's on the box. I just can't remember off the top of my head. God, this one is so... I've messed this up pretty badly, but it's the best I can do, really. I do wish these pieces would come either pre-painted or like... So as it turned out, that last one went on perfectly, but all of the others are a bit funky, but honestly, it looks kind of all right. You can't see all the wrinkles and all the divots that I put into it, but they're there. They are certainly there. Right. It's also incredibly difficult to pose this guy's head because it's a ball joint like inside of a shroud, but there you go. He's got a little head in there. Nice. And then I also have to put the stickers on the other head, the unactivated head, deactivated head. So there was a cut there because I had to go eat, but during that cut I put the stickers on the alternate head, which doesn't have the green bits in the middle. There we go. So now we have the next section, which is the right arm. There we go. I will admit the deactivated mode stickers that I put on, I actually think I did that better than the activated mode ones, which is a little bit annoying because I genuinely think I'm going to be using the activated stickers more, so that sucks, but well, what can you do? Ah, it's this bit. I see you. Every time I say that, I think of Twerp now. Speaking of obscure bands, though, I actually interacted with a guy today who'd actually heard of Steam Powered Giraffes, so that was fun. I think I mentioned in my last video that Steam Powered Giraffe were the first band I ever saw live. And I'm very happy about the fact. There we go. Okay. Ah, there's another one of these situations where it says don't cut the very specific part. Right, how does this go on? So it's this way round, and then like so. A bit further up, there we go. Perfect. I know it said to be careful with cutting this, so I will be, but there is a tiny bit of sprue left on it that I will remove. There we go. Detailing is an important thing in the whole model kit sphere. Ah, we finally get to use the last four gold bits, rather. Yes, okay, I see. I say I see, and then I didn't see, but now I do see. There we go. And then we put the other one on the other side and seal it up. And there we go. Nice little yellowy looking bit. We get this, and then connect the two pieces together. This goes on this long streak here, and then these, which way around? This way around. I see. So these two connect on here, and we got ourselves an elbow joint. There we go. There we go. We've got ourselves a little elbow joint. Don't know if you can see. There we go. Very nearly made a bit of a pig's ear of that, and I very nearly dropped it, but I got it. Oh yeah, I should probably put these. I don't need the tweezers. Oh no, there are stickers coming up, which I'm very, very happy about. Right, let's see. This bit goes this way, and then this bit goes this way, and then it connects like so. Okay, these tiny little fiddly pieces are incredibly difficult sometimes. And then this goes on here, I think, right? No. Ah, it goes on the back. I see. Which way around again? This way. Like that? No, that doesn't seem right. No, that stretches it oddly. Hang on, I don't think these pieces are fully flush with each other yet. Let me just use the back of the pliers to push them together. That's a bit better. Right. So how do this do here? So, hang on. So, okay. These connect like... No, they don't. These connect. Ah, there we go. Perfectly flush this time. And let me just file away this little bit of cutting damage that I did. I am not a perfect individual. And I do make mistakes, such as this. That'll be a little bit ugly, but it is a fairly structural piece that is immediately covered up with armor plating. So that's not so bad. I do wish I could have found a model kit for Metal Gear, honestly, because that would have been really fun to do. There we go. Right, so this goes on this, which goes on that piece that I just made there. That didn't go on at all, as it should have, actually. There we go. And there we go. Click. And this piece connects like that. Okay. Oh, these are the wing pieces, aren't they? I see. There we go. And these just fold together into a little wing. C11, that's this big old plate looking thing. This big old medieval heater shield, which I believe is one of the arm wings. There is I've noticed in the instructions that the next few steps are the hover units, so they're actually separate from the rest of the arms, which looks cool. There's still a little bit of sprue left on this thing. Just clear that off. There we go. And the back end, which way around? This way around. Nearly dropped that. Back end slots in like this, so it sweeps backwards from the looks of it. There we go. That clipped in nicely. And then that just plugs in like that. And then this plugs in like this. And there we go, that's a shoulder joint. And now we need a hand, which is B24 and A253. That's the weird looking iguanodon hand. There we go. Got to clear up a little bit of the sprue there on the finger. I'm essentially giving them a manicure. A robo manicure. There we go. This thing doesn't seem to have... hang on, it must have, like, interchangeable hands, because, like, it has knives, it has a gun, and these are just fairly, like, generic, sort of dangly hands. Ah, that's the wrong way around. Again. There we go. Oh, no. There we go. And then we can just plug that in here. There we go. And that is an arm with a little wing pauldron. And its weird little iguanodon hand with two thumbs. Can you see that? Is that focusing? Okay. I will plug that in to the guy's shoulder. There we go. I'm not a huge fan of how these arms connect, because they just fall off. Okay, now that the camera's back on, I had to swap the files over to empty out the SD card. I don't think I've used this camera enough to justify the expense of a new, bigger SD card. But apparently I justify the expense of these things, so who knows. Anyway, back to this. We're now onto the left arm, which is basically just build the right arm again until you get to the shoulder and hand, so there's going to be a lot more of the exact same thing. I think this one's going to look pretty cool. One thing I learned about the close-ups and such that I tried last time is it's probably better for me to just take detailed pictures at the end and then edit them in, because trying to get close-ups on a camera like this is like trying to get gold out of I don't know, something that doesn't have gold in it. I'm not good at the words. Even though I do write, I'm not good at the words. You know, I just realised I forgot to put the ankle guard on the other leg when I built it, so I'll do that now. But yeah, I have a Fiverr page. I will probably put it in the description. And through that, you can get me to write for you. I also have a voice acting thing open on there, so if you want my voice in anything that you do, you can do it through there. You can contact me on Discord. If I've got my Discord on my YouTube, I obviously don't remember. I'm a little bit judgmental about how the shoulder assembly works, to the point where I'm genuinely... There we go, exactly that. I'm genuinely questioning if I've done it right, because if this is how it's meant to be, this is not at all a secure thing, and I will probably glue this, because there's no way that's stable. I'll show it in close-up later, but it's not good the way that it connects. That's really not a good way for this to function. If nothing comes up on the screen, that's because I figured it out later that I had either done it wrong or found some way for it to work as intended. Maybe the hover units, as they're called, somehow even it out and make it better, strengthen it up a bit. But as it stands, it's not looking particularly stable, that's the word. Ah yes, this Bionicle looking piece. Who remembers Bionicle? I used to play Bionicle Heroes on my PS2. I recently replayed it, and I finished the entire game in one go. And, annoyingly, when I finished the game all in one go, it turns out that the final level is glitched. And you physically cannot get 100% completion. You can play the final level, but it will not count as 100% completion for some reason. And it is annoying as hell. I also found some really weird parts. Like, I think I found, like, some kind of command block that was just lying around in the open, not really hidden, which I found very entertaining. I think I posted both of those things on Twitter. I do that sometimes if I find something funny in a game. Like, I found a character, I think it was in Far Cry Blood Dragon, if memory serves. There were these VHS tapes that you could collect with, like, cheesy 80s action movie parodies, like, written on their description. You couldn't watch them, but you could read the description of the movie, and it was very cheesy and 80s. And there was a character that was called, like, Eddie Brosco, and there's a voice actor that I follow called Eddie Bosco. And if memory serves, in the game they called him Eddie the Egg Bosco. Brosco, sorry. And I remember tweeting about that because I thought that was rather funny, that that sounded so similar to the voice actor that I follow. He's very good. I believe he did the voice of Alistair in the Has-Been Hotel pilot, but is no longer doing it. That's something that none of the Has-Been Hotel cast are returning to the pilot. Not because they chose to, but because it was either some decision from on high or something like that. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Has-Been right now with the whole A24 thing. It's very cool they got picked up by A24. But yeah, I'm big into the voice acting scene. Like, I'm not part of the voice acting scene, really. I don't have a demo reel. I've never been paid. Like I said, I've been in a lot of casting call club things. Only 3 of them ever actually went through and, like, finished. That aforementioned Gotham High thing never actually went through. One of the ones that did, that I quite liked, was the Callisto project. I don't remember the exact name of it. I think it was just called Callisto. And it's really confusing because of the recent game that's come out called the Callisto Protocol. But Callisto was a sci-fi horror series. This kind of eldritch horror type deal where you don't fully know what's going on, because that's more fun, honestly. This isn't the right sheet, is it? No. I played a very fun character. He was kind of the head researcher, and then he died off quite dramatically. I quite liked working on that project. The other one that went through that I quite liked was, it was a modern day take on Frankenstein, and I played Victor Frankenstein. I quite liked that. I got to really ham it up towards the end. I'm actually working on a Frankenstein audiobook right now. But unlike my other audiobooks, I'm going to complete every chapter first and then release it as a full video instead of lots of little individual chapters. Because a lot of the chapters are really boring on their own. Like, I feel like I'm not exactly qualified to criticize, like, some of the greatest writers of our era, but I do kind of do it. I do talk smack about Lovecraft and Wells and Shelley as well. Like, I'm really, really interested in Mary Shelley to a degree, because just everything about Mary Shelley is interesting. Like, everything that she did in her life, like, the amount of success that she got for the time was amazing, considering that she was a woman at the time, you know? And the people she hung out with, like, she was just kind of this nucleus of interesting historical people. I'm very into history, can you tell? Like, this is one of the weird things about autism. Like, I can't tell you for the life of me simple mathematical equations. but I could very easily prattle off to you who the Prime Minister of South Africa was during the First World War. Like, this is just stuff that my brain remembers for some weird reason. And then there's other stuff that my brain just refuses to remember. Like, I literally am incapable of taking in certain information. It's so bizarre. And yet there is some information that I can't not take in, like I can't ignore. There's been times when, like, I've gone above and beyond what I needed to simply because I was interested. Like, during a story commission recently, we were talking about the layout of a building in the story, and I just decided to make a floor plan. I wasn't commissioned to, I wasn't paid to, but I did it because it was interesting. I just made a building, essentially. I did a floor plan, just out of the blue, for free, essentially. And I liked it. I liked it a lot, honestly. I like doing that sort of thing. It's not the first time I've done that for a commission. And, like, sometimes if I am, like, doing a commission, or if I'm, like, doing my own personal project, I'll just, like, I don't know, come across something in my research that's really interesting to me, and I'll just get lost in a tangent of research. The good thing about these hands is that, technically speaking, there's no left or right with them, because there's two thumbs on each hand. Ah, I see. I should have read ahead, really. So the arms aren't meant to go on yet, because the hoverpods do actually secure these pieces. Right, the hover units, rather. I keep calling them pods for some reason. But they actually do secure these shoulder pieces. And now I've got them really stuck on, so I'm going to have to use my parts separator. I always have to use it during a build. There's always at least one time when it has to come out. There we go. Just pop it off of that ball joint. And keep those arms off until the hover unit is secure. There we go. C1 or C2. Okay, C27, that's this piece. Lost my pinches for a second there, but they were right in front of me. Right behind you. Does anybody even play TF2 anymore, or is it just full of bots? In my experience, it's a purely bot-based game nowadays. I stopped playing competitive games years ago. I don't have the blood pressure for this. You know? Like, Overwatch was really the one that killed it for me. And, like, I'm also trying not to fund Blizzard, but what Blizzard did wasn't out when, you know, I stopped playing Overwatch. But I'm surprised that people are still okay with Blizzard. It's just like Blizzard release one new thing and all of a sudden everyone forgets all the trash they did. And then they do something else sketchy and they just release something else. Like, what was that thing recently that, like, they did something sketch and then they just released another queer hero in Overwatch, and everyone just forgot the terrible thing they did because all of a sudden there's this bisexual character. And everyone's talking about that instead and how hot he is, and I'm just like, is everyone forgetting the fact that they did something terrible? But yes, they did that. They that keeps happening. They did some terrible things, and then they release Overwatch 2 and nobody cares. And then everyone loses their minds. I've been watching a lot of mashups recently. I've really been into a mashup album recently released by Vray is Grey and I can't remember the other person's name off the top of my head. But I know Vray because I followed, well, I don't know them personally, but I follow them for their YTPs. And then all of a sudden they release mashup albums as well. Just all of the stuff that I'm interested in on one channel, apparently. That tends to happen, though. There we go. I was out shopping today with the parents, and we went to Aldi, and I literally cannot go to the shop Aldi anymore without hearing this bloody mashup in my head. Because one of the songs was "I am an what is it? An army of me," I think it is, mixed with I can't remember what it was. It was that Sonic the Hedgehog, Shadow, I should say, the Hedgehog song, and the backing vocals just sound like they're saying "I'm at Aldi." So that's stuck in my head every time I go shopping now. So thank you for that. I was watching some clips of somebody playing Metal Gear Solid 4, I want to say. And, like, after finishing watching Metal Gear Solid 1, I don't know how the hell we get to Metal Gear Solid 4. Like, all of a sudden, I mean, even to Metal Gear Solid 2, all of a sudden there's a vampire, like, Raiden's there, and then later on he becomes a cyborg ninja in a trench coat, and then he ditches the trench coat and gets a motorcycle and a robot dog in his own game with an absolutely amazing soundtrack. I genuinely, like, I know I saw that clip out of context. There was also a laughing octopus lady. I think that's actually her name, Laughing Octopus. Ooh. That pinged off somewhere. But yeah, that's Metal Gear for you. And all of it is like nestled inside of various layers of actual historical sort of context, where it's like, the Cold War. You know? Ooh, that was a snap and a half. Yeah, Metal Gear is one of those series that I don't think I've ever fully got... Ooh, Jesus. That I've never fully got into. It's very bizarre. I genuinely didn't know how most of the game went in a lot of ways. That pinged off again. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I only have recently learned from watching the game all the way through. And whilst I do admit that the cutscenes can be pretty, good, very well voice acted, very heartbreaking and emotional at times, there are just sometimes... There's weird situations. When I watch Metal Gear 1, I see things from other Metal Gear games. Like, I see... It's almost like Kojima wanted to do something in Game 1, and he didn't quite have the ability to yet. So he put the idea in, and then actually managed to bring it back successfully in a future game. Like, Sniper Wolf is basically just Mistral, right? I genuinely don't know if Kojima had anything to do with Revengeance, honestly. But Sniper Wolf is basically just Mistral. But yeah, Sniper Wolf, she's a killer who's really good at being a killer, grew up in a war zone, and was basically just waiting for somebody who could finally kill her. That's basically Mistral's backstory. Try and convince me otherwise, I dare you. Again, the best way to get audience interaction is to be just openly hostile to them. Nice going there, AJ. But yeah. Then there's like... Vulcan Raven kind of reminds me of someone else from a game as well, but I genuinely can't remember which one it was. We don't have any Ds left, so this must be D3 on a different model. Because I do know that if you buy this sort of aircraft model here, that you can actually launch him from the aircraft. Which is pretty cool of an idea. But I'm not buying a plane, because this guy's going to take up enough space as it is. Although he is smaller than I thought he'd be. You know, another thing that I think is actually kind of missing from Metal Gear 1, but that's because it was literally the very first Metal Gear Solid that they made. There's not really any kind of interesting situation between Snake and Ocelot yet. And, like, I was expecting it. I was expecting that to be sort of the foundation of it. Because, like, there was this moment where Snake is sneaking around listening to Ocelot and Liquid having a conversation about something. Like, sneaking around in the background of their conversation, listening in. and Liquid sees him on a camera and doesn't immediately tell Liquid. And I was thinking that that was going to be set up for a situation where, like, you know, because immediately before that, so okay, when Snake is being tortured by Ocelot, Ocelot says that he really wants to see Russia become a big superpower again. But yeah, like when you're being tortured, Ocelot specifically says that the only thing he wants out of the whole being a terrorist thing is to make Russia great again, essentially. And then Liquid specifically says to Ocelot, I don't care about making Mother Russia great again. And then seconds later, Ocelot sees Snake hiding behind a door on a camera, and he doesn't immediately tell Liquid. And in my brain, that's like, oh, he's going to team up with Snake because Liquid isn't going to give him what he wants. And he doesn't agree with the whole setting Metal Gear loose thing if Liquid's not in on helping Russia become a superpower again. But no. From literally that point on, we never see Ocelot again in the entire game. We hear him in the epilogue talking to Solidus, and that's it. That's the last we see of Liquid. Ocelot, rather. And I was surprised, because Ocelot and Snake's relationship in the next few games is one of the most interesting things. That's why it's hard to describe Ocelot in less than 10 minutes. But, like, it is a bit bizarre that they didn't include any of that relationship in Metal Gear 1. And I get it. Like, Metal Gear Solid 1 is the inception of the whole concept. I get that, like, they hadn't planned this out yet, you know? But, like, it is a bit... I don't know, I was expecting it and I didn't get it, you know what I mean? Like, it was strange. But like I said, it's not like I'm massively into Metal Gear. I've just been watching a lot of it recently just to see if I can get into it. It's very confusing, very bizarre, and I don't pretend to understand it. But like I said, I don't think understanding it is the point, you know? And also, like, the relationship between Otacon and Snake is very weird in that game. Like, they're at each other's throats for a lot of it because Snake wants to kill Sniper Wolf and Sniper Wolf wants to kill Snake and Otacon doesn't want either of them killing each other. And, like, the specific section where Ocelot asks Snake, do you think love can bloom on the battlefield? That, it just sounds like he's asking about Snake. It doesn't sound like he's talking about Sniper Wolf. It sounds like he's asking Snake if, like, he loves him. That's what it seems like to me. And honestly, from what I've seen of the future games and what I've heard from the future games, that seems pretty accurate to the future parts. But no, apparently that's not in the first game. I mean, obviously, it's a game from the 90s. They're not going to go full homo, are they? But, like, it would have been fun, you know? They very nearly did. It was heavily implied, but I think they kind of had a get-out-of-jail-free card with the whole Sniper Wolf thing. So they did that. They did that thing. The other funny thing about watching Metal Gear is I've seen a lot of memes about Metal Gear. One of the ones I quite like is it was an animation based on Joel from Vinesauce, who was it was him playing what the hell was it now? It was one of the Sims games, and in his Sims house was a character that he had made in Hard Time that but yeah, there's this really weird looking game called Hard Time, which is like a prison simulator, and in that game he built like this weird sort of knockoff Hulk Hogan that he called Bulk Bogan, and then he made that exact same character in Sims, that's what it was. And like, there was a character who looked exactly like Bulk Bogan in The Sims that he didn't make that was also wandering around. And so he called him Liquid Bogan. Because it was just a clone of him. And there was an animation that somebody made, I think it was Googly Gareth, made an animation of him. And they literally used voice lines from Metal Gear 1 when Liquid Bogan appeared. And it's funny because, like, when I'm watching this very serious scene in Metal Gear, I can't get this image of like a weird screwed up version of Hulk Hogan out of my head. Just wearing a suit and just being like, there definitely is a resemblance. And the funniest part of that joke was that, like, in the scene in Metal Gear, hang on, I just dropped the sticker sheet. In that scene in Metal Gear, for some reason Liquid is shirtless, so he's just wearing pants. And in the Sims animation, they made him the same, but with the weird sort of screwed up Hulk Hogan face. And then when he said, yes, twin brother, we're twins linked by cursed genes, he just pointed to the pants that he was wearing. And I just thought that was very funny. He literally has cursed genes. It's dumb as hell. But, like, this is the thing. Like, I've seen so many memes now that I can't holistically take anything from that game seriously. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you can't take seriously about Metal Gear, but especially now that I've seen so many memes. So when I see Liquid Snake talking about their cursed genes, I just think of him pointing to the pants and being like, they're cursed. These genes are no good. There we go. Let me just straighten his head out. And that is our boy, Brady. How cool is that? Let me get some close-up shots. I will reconfigure the camera, and then I will return momentarily. So here's Brady Hound. Forgive the slight change in lighting here. Let me just zoom in a touch so you can see him a bit better. This is our boy. I'm actually using a tripod this time so that it's a much more stable shot. Now, let me just show you a few of his details. So, this is the face. Come on, autofocus. Maybe if I put something behind it so it's a bit better. Nope, and that's just apparently what we're dealing with. Maybe if I zoom out. So you can't really see the face very well because this thing is deciding just not to focus for some reason. So let me show you some of the articulation he's got. A bit of a swivel there. This pauldron here is on a bit of a hinge away from, like, the arm moves on its own, which also moves the hoverpod thing. The knife here can swivel back and forth. Of course, elbow, wrist ball joint. The other arm is exactly the same. The head is on a ball joint, which makes it actually really hard to pose because it's extremely loose. He's got a bit of a crunch down, a bit of a move back, a lot of a swivel. There's actually, like, this ball section in the middle is individual from itself, so it moves back and forth quite well. It actually has a fairly good crunch. The skirts here are on a ball joint, so you can move them out. It can spread its legs pretty wide, it can kick forward. Then there's this knee with the big old knee guard there. And then, like I said, there's this really strange sort of, let me see if I can get this a good shot. Sort of, get it from the front. Side to side on the leg. And the only thing that's really stopping that from coming off easily is this ankle guard. And then he's got a toe bend and a heel bend, which is interesting. These proper sort of raptorial claws. Outside of that, he's got a bit of a wobble here. I don't know if that's an articulation thing. And I figured out what this weird butt flap is for. So these sort of tabs on the top of him here, these holes, are part of the transformation to get it into the transport mode. You pull this back and then flip it up, and then you bend the legs upwards and plug it this way into the helicopter, and you swap it out for the turned off face, the deactivated face. And then that is that, essentially. So let me just put him back, and I will get some good shots of him in action with the rest of my guys. So yeah, that's the build. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys will come back if I ever do another one of these. So I'll see you guys around.